Castlevania is a long-running game series published by Konami that has always held a special place in my heart. My first exposure to the franchise came about via a chance encounter with an NES bargain bin that contained a copy of Castlevania 2: Simon's Quest in the early 90s. It was the box art that instantly mesmerized me, with its gothic horror-inspired design depicting the heroic figure of Simon Belmont, brandishing his signature vampire killer whip in the foreground, while the menacing presence of Count Dracula loomed over him. I had immediately begged my dad to buy it for me, and spent the next countless weeks painstakingly working my way through the arduous puzzles of the game. I'm certain I must have consulted an old issue of Nintendo Power or similar source to aid me through some of the more obscure sections, like kneeling at the lake with the blue crystal to progress into one of the early mansions. And yes, I'm well aware of Castlevania 2's infamous reputation, popularized by the angry video game nerd, for its abundance of these types of cryptic moments. But at the time, I loved it. I still love it despite all of its glaring flaws. The graphics, the music, the atmosphere all hooked me in and developed my affection for the series' trademark style. Unquestionably, if it hadn't been for my experiences with Simon's Quest on the NES, I wouldn't have the same history or renown for the topic of today's video. Allow me to share with you my gaming memory of Castlevania: Symphony of the Night. Released on October 2nd, 1997 in the US, Symphony of the Night marked Castlevania's debut on Sony's PlayStation console. Akin to my experience with many other games, I first learned about Symphony from reading articles I came across in various gaming magazines. The October 97 issue of Tips and Tricks, for example, dedicated an entire 6-page spread to highlighting the game's numerous areas, bosses, and points of interest. Peering over these images, my mind was blown. Not only did this game feature the most stunning 2D graphics I had ever laid my eyes upon, but every screenshot came across to me as encapsulating everything I enjoyed about Simon's Quest turned up to its maximum. No longer was the main protagonist a whip-wielding descendant of the Belmont clan of vampire hunters, but the sword-swinging son of Dracula himself, Alucard. As a half-vampire, Alucard's arsenal extended past the normal range of physical weapons you might expect, including his magical abilities to conjure fire, feast on the souls of his enemies, and shift into other forms such as a bat, wolf, or mist. Every element showcased only convinced me more and more that this was a can't-miss title for me on the PlayStation. The only regret I really have for discovering the game in this way would be that a major plot point of the story was spoiled for me for having read about it here. Namely, the entire existence of the inverted castle following Alucard's confrontation with Richter in Dracula's throne room. However, I've also had friends tell me years after the fact that they had no idea that this fight could end in any other way than killing Richter and rolling the credits afterward. So, perhaps that isn't the worst outcome that could have occurred. When I finally got my hands on the game, I wasn't the least bit disappointed. The opening prologue, which puts you in control of Simon's descendant Richter Belmont, recreating the finale of Castlevania Rondo of Blood, sets a tone and atmosphere that carries through to the ultimate conclusion of the game. After a brief recap of the story, perspective changes over to our new lead character. Alucard is immediately shown off to be a force to be reckoned with, as enemies literally crumble at the touch of his sword. An early encounter with death, however, sees Alucard stripped of all of his most powerful equipment, which is scattered to the far reaches of the castle. I thought this was a brilliant setup, as it ensured my continued motivation as a player to keep returning to the game in order to uncover all of the castle's many secrets and bring Alucard back to his full strength before a final confrontation with the Risen Count. Castlevania: Symphony of the Night stands out to me as the pinnacle of everything a side-scrolling action RPG should aspire to be, as each of its elements synergize to create a perfect blend of open-ended exploration and free-form gameplay, which encourages overcoming obstacles through the combination of various weapons, items, and spells. The spark that was lit by Simon's quest for me in the early 90s, Symphony of the Night cemented into a lifelong fandom. Nearly every game that has followed it in the franchise has attempted to recapture the lightning in a bottle that was this game in 1997. And while many quality entries in the series have come about as a result of copying the formula, including a spiritual successor created by Symphony's former assistant director Koji Igarashi, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, none so far have been able to achieve quite the same dizzying heights as the original. In recent years, Konami has begun to re-release many of their old 2D Castlevania games through classic collections such as the Castlevania Anniversary Collection in 2019 and the Castlevania Advance Collection in 2021. Symphony of the Night was not included in either, but despite its omission, these compilations are amazing, and I'm sure it's only a matter of time before we see Symphony receive the same treatment. I would be thrilled to see it included along with the re-release of the Nintendo DS games, which are becoming increasingly harder to come by. It would be great to also see a collection of Castlevania's 3D ventures, but unfortunately, I don't think there is as much of an audience clamoring to see those titles make a comeback, so I won't bother holding my breath on that front. Which of the games in the Castlevania series are your personal favorite? Let me know in the comments, and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I greatly appreciate the support. For now, this is the Fabled Lionhart, signing off.